Sahana bhavatu sano bhunaktu sah viryam karavabhaye tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishabhaye. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May Brahman protect us, may he guide us, may he give us strength and right understanding. May love and harmony be with us all. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. Friends, we are extremely happy that Swami Ranganathananda ji Maharaj has come to our center this evening. He is a senior monk and one of the trustees of the Ramakrishna order. He is a great orator and a writer. He traveled all over the world except 3 countries, Pakistan, Bangladesh and China. Of course, he was in Hong Kong. Once a year, he encircles the globe. He leaves India, goes to Southeast Asia, Japan, Australia, then the United States, then Europe, various European countries. He was in Russia quite a few times. And he carries the message of Vedanta and the spiritual tradition of Ramakrishna Vivekananda. He wrote many books. Some of his books are published by Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, Bombay. Eternal Values for Changing Society, The Message of the Upanishads, Science and Religion. And also his travel accounts, as a pilgrim looks at the world, that book also is very popular. That also is has been published by Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan. Now his next 4 volumes of Eternal Values of Changing Society and other books are also have come out. Very soon also those books will come to us also. Anyhow, I shall not take much time from the Swami's talk. You have come, I am so pleased. And his topic tonight will be what Vedanta offers to the West. Swami Ranganathananda.
Friends, I have been coming to this center from 1968 onwards several times. Every year I pass through the United States since 68 on my way from Australia to Europe, and I visit many of our centers, but here for the last 4 years I could not come. Swami Chidananda wrote to me, please include St. Louis and Kansas City in this year's tour. I gladly accepted the request, and I am here before you this evening. I left India on 3rd April, went through so many cities in Australia on invitation, then came to Fiji, Manila and Japan. Everywhere, various meetings, universities, as well as public halls, then television programs, radio programs, then in Japan, Osaka, Kobe and Tokyo, finally entered the States at Seattle, then Portland, Sacramento, Berkeley and San Francisco. In front of me there are so many towns and cities here, as well as in Holland and Belgium, East and West Berlin in Germany, and Mauritius till July 3rd. This evening, Swami Chidananda has announced this subject, what Vedanta offers to the West. It is a wonderful subject. We consider only the modern West, that is, receiving Vedanta. But the truth is, Vedanta has been influencing the West for more than 2,500 years. The ancient Greeks came in touch with Vedanta. When the Persian Empire stretched from Greece in the west and India in the east, Indian ideas flowed through the channels of communication. And when you study Socrates and Plato, you are already in touch with Vedanta. According to various writers, including an English intellectual, E.J. Urwick, who wrote the book The Message of Plato more than 60 years ago, you find this understanding that we cannot understand Plato and Aristotle without reference to the Upanishads, the ancient Vedantic literature of India. In fact, the Greeks found Socrates outside the Greek tradition, not representing the Greek tradition. That Greek tradition dealt with the world of the senses. What lies above the sensory level, that was not part of classical Greek culture. But Socrates represented that deeper vision, that transcendental vision. The Greek mystery religions centered in Eleusis, a few miles off Athens, were also concerned with something transcendental in man. But these aspects could not find a place in classical Greek thinking. And so, such a great teacher like Socrates was found by the Athenian state as spoiling the youth of Athens and was condemned to death. But in the teachings of Socrates, you find profound Vedantic ideas. If you were in India, you would not have been killed. You would have been honored as a great sage, because that deeper vision of man is what you find in Vedanta, in the Upanishads, and a continuing tradition throughout these 2,500 years. One such episode you can get in Plato's dialogues, from which you will realize how the Upanishads, Vedanta, speak through ancient Greek experience. When he was drinking the poison, one of the disciples there, who was also a friend of Socrates, not only a disciple, Crito, he asked a question of Socrates. How shall we bury you? Socrates smiled and said, You must first catch me, the real me, before you ask that question. Be of good cheer, Crito. You refer to this body. As to the body, do with it as you do with other people. Here you have a profound vision of human nature beyond this physical limitation, sensory limitation. An infinite divine reality is there in man, immortal. The body perishes, not the self of man, the Atman. Now that is the central teaching of Vedanta in the Upanishads. This passage in Plato can as well become a chapter in any Upanishad. So that is how from ancient times Indian thought flowed to the West. Whenever channels of communication were created by empires uniting East and West, the first such empire was the Persian Empire. The second was the Greek Empire started by Alexander himself. That also connected East and West. Immediately this kind of connection comes, ideas begin to flow both ways. Western ideas flow into India, Indian ideas flow into the West. Indian ideas were particularly relating to philosophy and spirituality. Some scientific ideas did go to the West, also fables, but the greatest contribution of India to the West of that time lay in the field of philosophy and spirituality. That the soul is immortal, the body comes and goes. The Gita refers to the body as a cloth we wear. When it is old and torn, we throw it away, put on a new cloth. And the soul therefore changes bodies when they are no more of service and puts on new bodies. This is a profound teaching in the Upanishads regarding the depth dimension of the human personality. Behind this body-mind complex, which is subject to change and death, there is the immortal divine, the Atman, the self in every human being. There is only one self in all of us. In that self we are all one. That unitary vision the Upanishads had. That was conveyed to the West through various channels. Some of the Greeks became fascinated by Indian philosophy and spirituality. Today we are dealing with the modern West, but this has been repeated again and again in the previous ages, but in smaller ways. Today it is much bigger. And so you can imagine the Greeks coming in touch with Indian thought, becoming fascinated. They become worshippers of Vishnu, of Shiva, followers of Buddha. In Greek history you will find several such Greek rulers who ruled in what you call Afghanistan today. They are all Greek empires left by Alexander. And today if you go to India, there is a memorial pillar erected by one such Greek ruler, Antiochus. That is in honor of Vishnu. And he inscribes there, I am a profound devotee of Vishnu. As an offering, I am erecting this pillar in honor of Vishnu. You find it in the center of India, near Bhopal area. And it was in the 2nd century BC. It is called the Garuda pillar, because that monolithic column, very impressive, is surmounted by that bird, kite, Garuda, who is Vishnu's Vahana or conveyor. And below is the inscription. In history it is called the Best Nagar inscription. That town is called Best Nagar. Now this is just one such. There are many such, where when the Greeks came in touch with Indian thought, the deeper philosophical, spiritual aspect of that thought became fascinating to them. Some became Buddhists, followers of Buddha. There is a whole book in the Buddhistic canon known as Milinda Panha, Milinda Prashna, questions of King Milinda. Milinda is Menander, becomes Sanskrit Milinda. This King Menander of Greece, of that Greek kingdom, became attracted to Buddha and his teachings, and he questioned the Buddhistic monk Nagasena. This is about 1st century AD. And all that question answer is preserved in the book Milinda Prashna. So thus Vedanta has been influencing the West from very ancient times. There was active trade and commerce between India and Greece and the Roman Empire. Even today, when you dig in India here and there, you come across Roman coins, Caesar's coins, even today. Very active trade. So trade at the one side, commerce of ideas on the other. Greece influenced India in astronomy as well as in drama. This kind of give and take has gone on. This continued till the West was blocked from India by the Turks conquering Constantinople in 1453 AD. Then the West was in search of a new passage to India, and history knows how in that search they stumbled upon America. And in the modern period, after things settled down in America, settled down in Europe, various wars, nation states, then came a commerce of ideas. The West started going to the East for trade, colonization, and slowly coming in touch with the deeper soul of India and other countries. From the 18th century onwards, you can see Vedantic ideas coming to the West. The first such medium was the first English translation of the Bhagavad Gita, that remarkable book, Krishna's dialogue with Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra about 3,400 years ago. That was translated by Sir Charles Wilkins, a British civilian, also a student of Sanskrit, and the East India Company published it about 1775-78. The then British Governor General was the first British Governor General of India. He wrote an introduction to that book. Among the beautiful things he mentions there is one sentence. Mind you, he was founding the British Empire in India, and he writes in that introduction, "Long after the British Empire shall have ceased to exist in India, and the sources of its wealth and power are lost to remembrance, writings such as the Gita will continue to inspire generations of men and women." What a prediction. But very soon, what he predicted began to become true. The book began to influence thinkers in Germany, France, England, and that book came to this country about the middle of the last century through the great Emerson, who visited England at that time and met that British intellectual Carlyle, who had already been influenced by the Gita. And when he took leave of him, Carlyle presented a copy of the Gita to Emerson. As soon as he landed here, all his writings began to bear the impress of the Gita. He even rendered several verses in his essays into English. Deeply influenced he was by the Gita, and behind the Gita, the great Upanishads. And his other companions like Whitman and Thoreau also became deeply influenced. In fact, the transcendentalist movement of America at the time had the influence of Vedanta, especially the Gita. Thus, it started influencing, and that influence became deeper and deeper. Why these influences came? How could the Western mind accept these influences? When you read the early history of the modern period, you will be surprised to see the tremendous response of the Western mind to the Vedantic message. Why is it so? Because the West was developing in the scientific direction. In science, there is questioning, there is inquiry, there is foundation in facts. But religion in the West was extremely narrow, creed-bound. Several thinking people could not accept that kind of religion. And so they had no other way. They were shut out from all other traditions for centuries together. But in the modern period, just like in the Persian Empire or Greek Empire, when the British Empire knit various countries together, naturally lines of communication opened up, so ideas began to travel. And this time, travel very fast and very deep. For scholars in the West themselves, they became the conveyor of the profound ideas of the East to the West. Orientalist scholars translating the sacred books of the East into English and other languages of the West. Among them was Max Muller of the Oxford University, a German and a great student of Sanskrit. He has done immense services to bring these ideas from the East to the West. And not only philosophy, but also literature. The great classical dramas and the writings in Sanskrit began to slowly appear in Western languages. One such was the famous drama Shakuntalam by the greatest Sanskrit poet and dramatist Kalidasa, 3rd or 4th centuries BC. When its first translation came in German, the German poet Goethe became so fascinated, and he sang about the glory of this Shakuntala drama in great praise, great joy. Several other books also received the same response in the West at the time, and many of them felt that till now we were living in a very rigid atmosphere, a low-roofed world in which we were living, narrow, sectarian, dogmatic. Immediately they felt they were taken out of this narrow, stuffy atmosphere into an atmosphere of freedom, freedom of thinking, freedom of movement, freedom of experience. That is the first reaction of the West from its contact with the East. The infinite thought world of Vedanta. Even the concept of time, which is so immense in the Eastern tradition, became a revolutionary experience here, where time was considered to be very small. Hardly 5,000 years ago the world was created. So the immensity of space and time, the rational approach to human experience, religion which you can question, that is how Vedanta and all the other ideas came to the West at the time by initiative of Western scholars themselves. And the thinking section those who have been liberated from dogmatic theology and creed, they began to respond, and they could breathe more freely in that Vedantic atmosphere. Professor Max Muller and the other great German scholar Paul Deussen. I met Paul Deussen's granddaughter and her husband in Michigan 2-3 years ago. They are here. They were great Sanskrit scholars. They have written books on Vedanta. These were highly influential at the time. And Max Muller also wrote on Sri Ramakrishna when he met Swami Vivekananda. The West itself took the initiative of opening itself up to the influences from the East and particularly from India. But the profoundest ideas of India that have influenced the West is this freedom in religion, experienced as a test of religion, away from creeds and dogmas, which had crammed the soul of the West for centuries together. During the Renaissance, in the 16th and 17th centuries, the Western mind expanded from that cramped medieval period, find a new expansive attitude that could not be contained within the rigid traditions of the West. And so you find this opening up, group after group. First the rational minds, then the spiritual seeking minds started responding to the philosophy of Vedanta and its spirituality. The same experience came here in America towards the second half of the last century, by which time America had settled down, industries had started, scientific developments had begun, a new American culture, an American consciousness was developing at the time, an identity of a culture and a nation. It was just an outpost of England in the beginning, an outpost of Europe, but a personality came slowly during that middle 19th century. And then came an independent search. The impact of America, Vedanta on America had a special significance only because this whole nation was founded on the concept of freedom. And yet in religion there was no freedom. Politics, there was freedom. Society, there was freedom. But in religion it was rigid, orthodox. No kind of free thinking possible. And so when Vedanta came, the ideas of Vedanta, which are so free, which deals with man from a depth point of view, that became a tremendous fascination for the thinking minds. Small groups of people here and there. All influences begin with small groups of people all through the ages. When we speak of European Renaissance of the 16th and 17th century, don't think that everybody was fascinated by Greek classical literature at the time. Only groups of people, Italy first, then France and England and Germany. That is how Renaissance came in. If you were living at the time, you would not have felt any Renaissance at all. Only historical perspective, you see a Renaissance that took place then. Similarly here, groups of people responding. We are feeling stuffy in this atmosphere of religious intolerance, dogmatism and creed. We don't want this, we want something better. The first option is to become an atheist. And many became atheists. In Europe also the same. Give up the church, give up theology, become free thinkers, agnostics, etc. And that will not satisfy. Some faith you need. And so further search continued. But there is no other faith available here. This is all what we get. But when this became available, immediately the mind turned in that direction. This continued up to the end of the century. Mind was getting prepared to respond the direct Vedantic message from India. Till now it came through scholars, all Western. Directly India did not touch the Western mind. Even in the Greco-Roman period, very often it went through other sources and not directly from the Indian sources. That continued in this country also up to the end of the last century. But the mind is getting prepared to receive a message of freedom, a message of spiritual experience, and a message of universality. Nothing narrow, nothing sectarian, a universal vision. The whole American cultural experiment was geared in that direction. Its politics, its sociology are developing in that line. But its religion was narrow, was cramping. And so there was a struggle. So get out of it. You can see it in the writings of Theodore Parker and others of that century. That struggle to get out from what you call a Procrustean bed of dogma and creed. There's a famous story in Greek mythology. There was a man called Procrustes. He had a bed. He will ask every passerby to come and lie on his bed. If the man is short, he will go on pulling him until he becomes as big as the bed, because his bed was a standard. If he is too tall, he will cut him and make him fit the bed. My bed is the standard. That's called Procrustean bed in Greek mythology. Much of religion was Procrustean bed. Everybody has to be somehow fitted into that Procrustean bed. It distorted many personalities. Many great creative minds were simply distorted by that system. Why not provide a bed suitable to every human being? Naturally, that message will be tremendously attractive. That is what Vedanta brought here. Slowly, through Western agencies, later on directly from India, and that explains that tremendous response of the American mind and heart to the message brought by Swami Vivekananda at the Chicago Parliament of Religions in 1893. That is a watershed. India directly came with her own voice to convey this profound message of freedom, experiment, experience, a scientific approach to man's higher life, to a nation which had achieved great successes in physical sciences. That is how we can study that spontaneity of American response to the presentation of Vedantic ideas at that Chicago Parliament. When America was celebrating its 4th centenary of discovery by Columbus, they had a wonderful celebration, the Columbian Exposition, which showed America's progress in science, in industry, etc. Along with it came a Parliament of Religions. It was a wonderful thought by some of the members of the Columbian Exposition Committee. Since religion forms an important part of human heritage, why not this celebration include a great Parliament of Religions where people from all over the world, various religions, can come, present their ideas. Those few who thought in these large terms, they were certainly pioneers of a new development in both East and West. Imagine 1893. Still there was a lot of rigidity, lot of narrowness. But a few American leaders of thought at the time had that boldness. Let us expose the whole American mind to the total human heritage in religion, because it forms an important heritage of man. And so invitation goes to all the various religions of the world, sects of the world, denominations of religions. When you read the history of Parliament of Religions by Dr. Barrows, who was the president, there are 2 such books on the Parliament of Religions. You will see the immensity of the effort of those great leaders of thought to make that exposition truly historic. Over 1,000 papers were read in the Parliament of Religions, September 1893. And so that parliament became a platform for exposing the American mind to religious traditions other than what they were accustomed to till then. The Semitic religious tradition represented by various denominations of Christianity and Judaism. Nothing else we knew. But that parliament exposed the American people to various traditions of religion. They could choose a shirt that fits them. Now we have only one shirt, short or long or big or small. I have somehow to be within that shirt. I resisted, but I can't escape. I can become an atheist. I can't remain spiritual within that condition. But that parliament gave this new opportunity that was slowly developing through the work of these transcendentalists. That is the importance of Swami Vivekananda's appearance at the Chicago Parliament of Religions. That explains the tremendous response of the American mind to that message which he delivered there. One of the great disciples of Vivekananda was Miss Margaret Noble of England. She became Sister Nivedita later on when she went to India and did wonderful work there. And she is remembered and honored in India by every section of the population because she did wonderful work for India. Even great political leaders, great poets, they look upon Nivedita as one of the greatest creators of modern India. She molded the mind of our artists, political workers, social workers, development of women's education. That was the work she did. Now this lady has written a beautiful introduction to the complete works of Swami Vivekananda. In volume 1, there are 8 volumes. In volume 1, she writes the introduction to all the volumes. There, the title is Our Master and His Message. There she gives you an artistic picture of Vivekananda's appearance at the Parliament of Religions. How could this young man of 29 appeal to the huge audience, the best of the American tradition gathered there, nearly 7,000 people? How could they respond to Vivekananda's personality on the one side and only 5 words he first uttered before the actual speech? Sisters and brothers of America. As soon as these words are uttered, there was a tremendous applause. For 2 minutes, everything was applause. What were there in those few words? This wonderful lady, Miss Margaret Noble, gives you the explanation. He stood there as the representative of a very ancient culture and spiritual tradition, dating from the Vedas. He has been a true representative of the ancient Indian spiritual culture and tradition. In front of him lay a new continent with an experiment of culture in new directions, full of vitality and youth, and looking forward for some tremendous formulation of human dignity and human worth. Our whole democracy here is based upon the concept of human dignity. America was trying to build up on that basis. But the religious thought of America did not sustain that faith in human dignity. For man is born a sinner. He has been blundering all through according to theology. How can there be human dignity when everybody is a born sinner? And so there was something that was just moving in the minds and hearts, a new message which can sustain our own experiment in this country. Then they looked at Vivekananda, this tremendous aspiration in the heart of a young civilization. and that is the oldest civilization. Two confronted each other at that parliament platform. In the personality of Vivekananda, they met together, and that meeting together created that wonderful explosion, the ancient message of human dignity, the modern message of human dignity. They met together for Vivekananda in that wonderful Parliament of Religions opening address conveyed this vision of human dignity, human glory, man as the essentially divine self, ever free, ever pure. He is to realize this truth for himself, for that is religion and not a creed or a dogma. It's no wonder, therefore, after that first 5-minute speech, the remaining speeches conveyed all these ideas of Vedanta, and all of them fell on fertile soil. Even when he spoke in the scientific section, the president of the scientific section specially referred to Vivekananda's message is so rational, so human, and so he became the central figure of that great parliament. Everything else is forgotten except what he did in that parliament. Many denominational religions were there. They couldn't make any impact upon that parliament. In fact, you will be surprised to know when invitations went from Parliament to various Christian denominations, even the Catholic Church accepted the invitation, but not the Anglican Church of England. The Canterbury Archbishop wrote a letter, it is there in that history book. What do you mean by a Parliament of Religions? There is only one religion in this world, that is the Anglican Church. I refuse to participate in this conference. That letter is there. What has changed today from what was that attitude then? But that was the attitude. The Anglican Church is God's own church. God has given all the blessings on England because big empire, money, power, everything is there. That is the way you judge a religion. How much money you have. That is the condition at that time. So that letter is very interesting from that point of view. But see today, after nearly 90 years or 85 years, I went to England, 76. The Dean of Westminster and his wife, high dignitaries of the Anglican Church, came to attend my lectures in the Indian Embassy, High Commission. Then they invited me to their house. I went there with the Swami of the London Vedanta Society. She took me around the whole of that abbey, made me address the Westminster High School students. Then we sat for conversation and for tea. And this is the first thing they said, both of them, husband and wife. Swamiji, we are reading now the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. What a wonderful book. They were spiritually inclined. They were not just institutional religious people. So they felt tremendous inspiration in that book, the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. And so in the Parliament, when Swamiji appeared before that vast gathering, full of vitality and vigor, full of hopes of some great future, Swamiji became the meeting point of two cultures, two traditions, and the contact created an explosion. That's the meaning of that wonderful response to Vivekananda's 5 words, sisters and brothers of America. He spoke the Vedantic language. We are all one. The same Atman is present in every being. Indian culture has been universal in its dimension. All its great teachers were universal. They didn't think in terms of sects and creeds and denominations. They thought of humanity as a whole. Even all living creatures were taken into their ambit of thought. That message conveyed through these 5 words was enough to get this tremendous response. During the rest of the sessions, every speech of Vivekananda was listened to with the greatest attention. In fact, some of the newspapers wrote that the President of the Parliament knew how to keep the audience in tether. If a prosaic speaker speaks, audience begins to leave, most of the audience has gone, the President is wondering how to conduct this meeting. Then the newspaper reports, he will announce, Vivekananda will give a brief speech at the end of the session. All the people come back. They will sit down there. You can read it in your own newspapers at the time. What is this fascination of Vivekananda and his philosophy to the American mind at the time? Only this wonderful fascination. It just was in tune with the American experiment in culture. Freedom, freedom, freedom. Vedanta speaks of freedom. It doesn't speak of salvation. It speaks of freedom. You are free, you are free. Assert your freedom. When the leaders started their independent struggle against England, in the charter it is mentioned, we are all free. We want to establish a society based on freedom. That's why America fought against England, it declared independence. That freedom cannot be parceled out in various sections. It cannot be restricted from areas of life. It must be universal. Vedanta brought that message of freedom. Freedom physical, freedom mental, freedom spiritual. That is the message of Vedanta. In many lectures, Swamiji referred to this. The Upanishads preach to me from every page two great ideas. One, freedom. Second, fearlessness. This is the great message of Vedanta. In no other literature, Vivekananda said here, will you find these two ideas so prominently. Every other religion contains not freedom, but bondage to dogma, bondage to authority. Here, freedom to think, freedom to experiment. Then, the second message is fear. Much of religion is fear, whereas Vedanta says fearlessness. Abhayam is the great word in Vedanta. Be fearless, be fearless. True religion leads you to fearlessness. What a wonderful message for a people like the people of America at that time, young, vital, vigorous, themselves developing a philosophy of fearlessness, getting confirmed in it by a profound message which is Vedanta. So first, freedom. Second, fearlessness. Third is equality. A tremendous message coming from Vedanta. The same Atman is present in every being, in its integral wholeness. One of the lectures in America on Vedanta, Swamiji gave, in that he pointed out the kinship of Vedanta with American democracy. He said, you had a king in George III. You obeyed him. Then you felt, that won't do. Why should I bow down to anybody else? I shall be free. We fought against King George III and declared our freedom and established a republican democracy here. Then what happened? That sovereignty that was centered far away in England in one person, you took away that sovereignty. You didn't destroy it. You scattered it among the millions of American citizens here. That's the meaning of republic. That's the meaning of democracy. That is exactly what Vedanta says. Praying before a God sitting in the sky here and there, full of fear, that is not philosophy, that is not religion. That sovereignty is centered in you, in every one of you. That is Vedanta. You will be surprised to know, in one of the Upanishads, there is a wonderful teaching, so modern, so inspiring. That is the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, where the teacher says, addressing all humanity, don't remain a cattle to the gods. Don't remain a creature to the gods, worshipping this god and that god here and there. You are a creature, like any animal. Don't remain so. You be free. Why should you bow down to any god here and there? That God is hidden within you. That sovereignty is your own self. And so in that passage, the sage says, like a cowherd having a number of cows, he protects all those cows because they are his property. He lives on them. And if a tiger takes away one of the cows, the cowherd is very much upset. Similarly, the gods want men and women to be slaves, to be creatures. Don't strive for freedom, because they will go beyond you. You will go beyond their control. So they protect jealously the sheep that we are under their control. You break through this by realizing the Atman. I am the Atman, ever free. That's my true nature. But they will put obstacles on your path. Just like any cowherd will put obstacles in the path of any tiger snatching away a cow. But they will not succeed. None can resist this effort to realize the Atman, which is our true nature. It's not something external to us. So external sovereignty we rebel against. Even the Englishmen have done it. They cut off the head of one king. External sovereignty cannot stand long. Sovereignty is yourself. And this Vedanta came at that time. You are free. You are free. The infinite Atman is your nature. So there is no salvation. There is freedom. Mukti is the word in Sanskrit. What a wonderful message for a new culture in this continent, rooted in the sense of freedom, human dignity, human equality. As the Atman, we are all equal, because there is no fraction in the Atman. Just like in political citizenship in a democracy, there is no fraction of citizenship. You are a full citizen. The president and the simple housewife, both are equal so far as citizenship is concerned. There is no fractionalization. Similarly, in our nature of the Atman, he is present integrally in every one of us. That is our spiritual freedom and equality. Out of this comes fearlessness. The great message of Vedanta is fearlessness. Which enlightened mind will not respond to a message of this nature when they have only a religion of fear, of temptation, a religion which says you are good for nothing, you are a sinner? In that parliament, Swamiji brought this wonderful message of cheer and hope to people here, quoting one verse from the Upanishad, Shvetashvatara Upanishad. When a sage discovered man's true nature as the infinite Atman, ever free and ever pure, he stood up and proclaimed it to all humanity, not for a group or section. That verse he quoted and translated, and it created a tremendous impact upon the audience at the time. Shrinvantu Vishve Amrutasya Putraha Aye Dhamani Divyani Tastuhu Vedahametam Purusham Mahantam Adityavarnam Tamasah Parastat Tameva Viditva Atimrutimeti Nanya Pantha Vidyate Ayanaya. The sage addresses the whole of humanity as children of immortality. You are not children of mortality, not children of sin, not children of delusion. You are children of immortality. Listen to me, Shrinvantu, Vishve, wherever you are, the whole universe, listen to this message. It's not meant for a particular group. It is meant for all humanity. Shrinvantu Vishve. Then, Amrutasya Putraha, I see you as children of immortality. And how did you get this truth? I realized it. And you can also realize it. That's the language. This is the truth about man. I have realized it. You also realize it. If you realize it, you will achieve freedom and fulfillment. And there is no other way. There is no other way. That's the last line. Nanya pantha vidyate ayanaya. Swamiji went into ecstasy in expounding the message of this verse to that great august audience. Allow me to call you brethren, by that sweet name, children of immortal bliss. Yea, the Hindu refuses to call you sinners. It is the greatest sin to call a man a sinner. It is a standing libel on human nature. Come up, O lions. You are not sheep. You are lions. You are not the servant of matter. Matter is your servant. Assert your dignity and freedom thereby. Now, this kind of message the West had not heard all these 2000 years. Earlier the Greeks had heard it. Socrates had responded to it. It's no wonder in the parliament Swamiji became a favorite. A breath of fresh air came into the world of religion. Along with this teaching came its own corollary, absolute tolerance, respect for every path, freedom for everyone to choose his own path, no stereotype, no compulsion. The West has experienced these compulsions for 2000 years. Even the great mystics of the West had to be very guarded in expressing their experience. Here is a rail track, go by that, don't go this way, that way. So many mystics had to suffer because of this rigidity. And whereas Vedanta brought an atmosphere of absolute freedom to experiment in the world of religion. And when you experiment in the world of religion, you create plurality, not uniformity. One rigid, uniform code, not at all. India is a land of plurality. Today America is a land of plurality. It was not there before. It was just a little plurality, but not too much unfamiliar plurality. Today is really a plural society. England is a plural society. People do not know how to handle the situation. But in India for 5,000 years, it is a situation that did not come accidentally to India. It came as a result of its own vision of reality as the one behind the many. The many has a value. We shall preserve it. That became not only a spiritual vision, but also a socio-political policy. We allow diversity of religion, diversity of food and dress and language. That's beautiful. Diversity makes for beauty. Otherwise it would be drab, a uniformity. So India's philosophy of culture and society is unity in diversity. Today that is what fits most to cultures and societies like America, England, Australia, etc. There is such diversity. We are frightened by this diversity. But if India's philosophy comes, we shall not be frightened, because a garland will contain pearls of different colors, of different types, but they will all be unified by a central thread. That makes it beautiful. If it is all one color, it will be so beautiful. Different colors makes it more beautiful. So society becomes unified in some common spiritual loyalty. Everything else is diverse in expression. This kind of philosophy is what Vedanta brought to the Western world, both in Europe as well as here, and that is what is going on. This sense of freedom to experiment religion, not to be tied down by institutional forms or creedal dogmatic forms. This dignity of man as the Atman, we can realize it. It is my birthright. Nobody need give it as a gift to me. I have only to realize this truth. So experiment, experience, verification of a truth matches so well with the scientific culture which Western world has developed in the modern period. That is how Vedanta comes to the West with a tremendous message. And imagine the other truth. Even for India, it is a new message. This Vedanta was there in books, in forests, in monasteries. A few saints had experienced this, but the vast society of India had no touch of Vedanta at all. So Vivekananda did this work in both the hemispheres. He released the energies of Vedanta to create a new society in India based on human freedom, dignity, and that equality. That's what is taking place just now there. And in that work, he finds the Western world already advanced. He can learn so much from the West from that point of view. And so he initiated in the name of Vedanta a wonderful method of interchange of ideas, commerce of ideas and experiences, so that East and West can be enriched through this medium, as it happened during the Greek period 2000 years ago. India learned from the Greeks learned from India. That's what happened then in a small way. Today it is a big way, because the world is quite different now from what it was in those days. Communications are so fast and quick, and so what the West can learn from Vedanta, what Vedanta can offer the West, is exactly what the West has already achieved. How to carry this achievement to higher levels? We have achieved technical efficiency. We have achieved economic strength. Many of these beautiful things we have achieved. But the next question remains, what shall we do hereafter? What all this is meant for? How to achieve true human fulfillment? That is the spiritual dimension of the human problem. We know so little about it in modern science. Vedanta comes and continues the march of science from the physical to the superphysical and not supernatural. There is another wonderful appeal, Vedanta to modern mind. It has nothing supernatural. Here everything was supernatural in the name of religion. No science can accept supernatural, but superphysical, supernormal, superconscious, that we can understand. That's what Vedanta said, that this sensory level of human experience is what constitutes the range of positivistic knowledge. All physical science, technology, politics, economics deal with this sensory world of experience. But the greatest mystery lies beyond that level, the transcendental level, and that search is as scientific as any such can be. This way of presenting religion in a scientific language appeals to people in the West, being nourished in physical science. That is how Vedanta is coming to the West, and same work is being done by Vedanta in India also. Banishing superstitions, weaknesses, developing strength and confidence, developing the awareness of human dignity and worth. It is doing immense work in India as much as in the rest of the world. This is the situation in which we are placed today. There is so much to go in front to achieve total human development and fulfillment, a mankind awareness, the unity of all existence, which is the teaching of Vedanta. That unity is slowly coming. We are breaking down barriers to neighborliness, political, social, racial, economic. All sorts of things are being broken down. I was simply charmed when I was in Sydney. I met a big officer for the government of India. He is the Controller General and Auditor of the government of India, very high dignitary. He has come there, he came to my lecture and told me, what is the matter? We are having an international conference of all Auditor Generals of the whole countries of the world. What a beautiful idea. Putting our heads together, unity of the whole world. This is the modern period. Sponsoring it is this philosophy of Vedanta, which proclaims the fundamental unity and solidarity of all that exists here. That is his profound message. In that direction, we have to take international politics, international sociology, international cultural activities in that direction. Vedanta will stand sponsor and bless every such effort. That is the supreme relevance of this most ancient philosophy to the most modern period. What is ancient and what is modern with respect to truth? Truth is always modern, though it is ancient, because truth never changes. It is the same truth, 2 plus 2, 4, for Greeks and for us today, for East or West. There is no difference at all. So when spiritual truths are truths, they do not age. They remain fresh. That is the nature of Vedanta, containing a few profound spiritual truths about man, his life, and his destiny. that appeals to all thinking minds in all ages. But its greatest work is in the modern period, when the whole world has become its audience. That is the Vedanta which, when I go to communist countries, when I speak about Vedanta of this type, I don't find any resistance at all. It's a wonderful philosophy that the divine truth is hidden in a very human being, not somewhere outside, and we can realize it, we can unfold it. That is the whole of science or spirituality. Along with physical development of sciences, we need this spiritual science to make man truly free, truly fearless. That's why it appeals to humanity everywhere. I'm very happy to be here for this evening. Tomorrow I go to Kansas. There is Vedanta Society. A similar meeting is there, then Dallas. Then of course to Chicago, Ganges, Detroit, Boston, Providence, New York. Flying to Amsterdam on 24th of this month. I have also to go to East Berlin, Communist Berlin, every year in the Humboldt University, as well as West Berlin and West Germany, and the island of Mauritius in southern Indian Ocean. That's the program ahead of me. I'm very happy to be with you once again after nearly 4 years. Thank you all.
After collection, Swami will be glad to answer some of your questions. He will be here another 15-20 minutes, so you have, please prepare your questions and he will answer.
Swami was to screen a videotape this evening, but for want of time, he has put it for Tuesday evening. And there's a very important video which I saw in Sydney in Australia. It is made by the BBC. It's called Sea of Faith. Man searching for faith through various channels, narrow, sectarian, violent, like today's fundamentalist violence, all that is handled there. But finally, he finds Swami Vivekananda's message, the most relevant to the modern period, and he says, Swamiji combines two great urges in modern minds. One is mysticism, the other is humanism. These two become beautifully harmonized in Vivekananda's great philosophy, Vedanta. About 50 minutes film. I saw it in Sydney. I was deeply impressed. It's highly educative. They gave me a copy. There are 2 copies in Manila. There are 2 copies here in San Francisco. And there was difficulty also because of different frequencies. Somehow they managed it. And so I could get a copy here, and I am taking it to Holland and other places that Swamiji will be showing on Tuesday evening. It's an education by itself. Yesterday they showed it in Berkeley after the talk there. Whole hall was full of people. It's a real education. Sea of Faith, BBC film.
All right, you can now ask questions to Swami, whatever you want to know about Vedanta or science.
Yeah.
Swami, in your lecture you explained to the narrator about the time when people were using faith. And then you went all the way, almost all the way to the in between, we see the revolution in thought about the time of the rebel. Roger Bacon, the founder of modern science, was about that. should be a string connecting all of these.
The Renaissance I referred to was the one that took place in Europe in the 16th and 17th centuries, when Europeans came in touch with classical Greek culture. They could come to intimate contact with that culture because when the Turkey invaded Constantinople, many Greek scholars scattered. They went to Western Europe. They brought this culture. That created a ferment because there is so much of rational thinking in the Greek culture and a touch of humanism. And here there is so much of rigidity of the church and dogma. That created a ferment. That ferment took more than a century to find expression. The creation of modern West is the product of that Renaissance. But I can also tell you the prediction of Schopenhauer, the famous German philosopher of the last century. He will be featured in that film which you will be seeing on Tuesday. He said Europe experienced a renaissance in the 16th and 17th centuries when it came in touch with classical Greek culture. But it will experience a much more pervasive renaissance when it will come in touch with the ideas of Sanskrit literature. When the profound ideas hidden in Sanskrit become available to this part of the world, he says you will have a much bigger renaissance. That was his prediction. We are seeing it slowly getting implemented in this modern period after about 140 years. This will affect all aspects of life. Rigidities of religion are slowly giving way to dialogue between religions. That's a tremendous experience of the modern period. It was never there before. It comes as a fallout from Swamiji's last para of Chicago Parliament address. And he said, I thank America for holding this great parliament of religions. And he said, on the banner of every religion will soon be written, help and not fight, assimilation and not destruction, harmony and peace and not dissension. In that line, religions are going today. Here and there may be a stepping backward, what you call fundamentalism. That is just an occasional experience only. It's not in the main line. That will be overcome later on. A forward thrust of harmony and cooperation by emphasizing the spiritual dimension of religion, not the ethnical dimension of religion, do's and don'ts. Many people are seeking today for the spiritual dimension of religion.
Swami, how do you compare the view of the student interested in your message on the college campuses now as compared to 12 to 15 years ago?
At that time, there was a tremendous movement which we now call the hippie movement, because there was the Vietnam War. So many other experiences which young people didn't like, and so they felt that this civilization is sinking, it's not worth living in, let us drop out. That's called the famous dropout phenomenon. It was a strange phenomenon. It has never happened in Western history. But when I spoke here at that time, I was here at that time, 68, 69, I spoke in the Kalamazoo University on this very subject, Indian culture and American counterculture. That is the language used at that time. I spoke on that occasion, so many hippies were present. I said, this dropout movement is something new to you, not to us in India. We had it for 4,000 years ago. I said, whenever you find society oppressive, people quietly leave society, go to the forest, sit in meditation, try to understand higher truths. And they became the greatest enricher of Indian culture, out of which was born a Buddha. He himself was a dropout, I said. The audience was laughing. Buddha was a dropout. I am also a dropout, I said. But the difference is, you know how to drop out. You don't know where to drop in. That we know. That is what is coming today. We know where to drop in. At that time many dropped out. Where to? Drugs, sex and crime. A few only could find their way to the right direction. All the rest was lost their way. That's why many of the hippies are driven out from Nepal, from Goa and other places, because they become a nuisance. So dropping out is easy, but without dropping in, dropping out has no meaning. That complete philosophy is provided in Vedanta today. Whenever you feel irksome, this kind of social life, full of obligations, you visit a person and you must return the visit, all sorts of oppressive social rules and regulations, you feel it is compressing your spirit. Then you'll say, free. Go out, be free. You can become absolutely free. There is such a life possible. That is how Vedanta brings this capacity for aloneness in the society. We don't be anti-social. We enrich society by getting out of that rat race of society, we call it. We have a lot of rat race. Everybody in the same road. So traffic jam. Why not diversify traffic? Similarly in spiritual life, you are busy making money, you are busy running after power, go ahead. But a few will move aside. The older people will move aside. There are better things to do than this. There are higher things to pursue. In this way, Vedanta brings a new message of adjustment in society, natural, spontaneous adjustment. I have finished with it. I will seek something better. That's a beautiful idea. I have neglected this spiritual life all these years. Now I have time, I have opportunity. Let me develop it that way. That is how I say, even yesterday I spoke in San Francisco, the same thing. This Western society, and particularly American society, is ripe for the greatest spiritual development on a collective scale, because the background is very clear. The economic conditions are very stable. You have got a firm ground behind. You can fly. As I said, an aeroplane cannot take off unless the ground is firm. Our ground is firm. We can take off. We must know how to take off. What is the nature of the takeoff? When that is known, here old age will become the happiest period of a man's life. Today it is not so, because we run in the same road, a traffic jam. Vedanta will help us to understand higher dimensions which man has to pursue. The spiritual, they are not something moony, something far away in another world, not at all, here and now, before this body falls away. Let me realize this profound truth. That is how we shall have a new type of old age. Happy childhood, happy old age. In between comes land of age of struggle. That struggle itself becomes brightened by the spiritual motivation. This is how Vedanta will bring a rational message, intensely human. And these countries are fittest for going in that direction. India has much longer road to go. First of all, creating that economic base, that social base, then only we can take off. But here it is just ready for that take off, as we call it.
Swami, you referred to a modern renaissance, and in looking at the world from a physical standpoint, it's chaos. Does a renaissance have to be accompanied with a preceding chaos?
Yeah, this is a beautiful thing, you know. Very often we consider whenever a great teacher has come, everything will be fine at that time. Not at all. Even when Jesus came, everything was dismal around him. All slavery, all oppression, isn't it? But Jesus arose at that time and slowly worked to change the situation. When Shakespeare wrote his famous plays, England was not at all a very happy place to live. It was full of trouble, and yet a flowering took place there. So in this world also today there is so much of evil trouble going on. But from bottom a new world is rising, new aspiration, new ideas. That is how the world goes on changing. In the beginning you don't see it. Vivekananda said in one lecture, put a kettle of water on a stove and tell a child, now water is getting hot. Child will say, nothing is happening, I am looking into it, it is just the same water. You say, no, something is happening. You have put it on the fire, something is happening, not visible yet. Watch a little. Then after some time, a bubble comes up from the bottom. Then the child says, oh, something is happening. That's meaning. So then second bubble, third bubble, then the whole thing boiling. In all human transformations, this is what will happen. Even when you fought for freedom in this country, first a few people only asked for freedom, not others. Then others started coming in. Then only freedom became a reality. Civil war also was the same. So in this way, a few creative people move onward. Others watch. Others slowly coming later on. That is how social changes take place in any part of the world. That is going on in the world today. Everywhere there is tremendous restlessness, longing. There is crime, there is delinquency, petty wars are going on. All that is there. At the same time, seeking, understanding, struggle, that is also going on. This is a beautiful situation. We are living in the best period of history, a creative period.
Swami, you said that Vedanta encouraged the West to be spiritually creative and to spiritually experiment. Could you exemplify this for us? What sort of spiritual experimentation?
I read a book in Washington just a few years ago. It's called The Handbook of American Psychiatry. So many authors are there, where one subject is discussed. American children are becoming less and less creative. They are capable, they are efficient, doing with machines, but creativity is something else. So they are dealing with that subject there. How to encourage creativity in our children? So many suggestions are given. One, they should not be working all the time. They must keep quiet for some time. That's one suggestion given there. They must be lazy. If you want to be creative, you have to be lazy. It goes against our very philosophy here, to be lazy. He says no. Then he goes one step further. Allow children moonwalking, then only they will be creative. Constantly doing, constantly in company with other people, talking all the time. How can you be creative? A new inwardness must come. All that is included in the word spiritual. They have not put the word spiritual. What is called is moonwalking. You know, in Buddhistic meditation, in every Buddhistic monastery, there is a small footpath behind, quiet. A monk will walk up and down in meditation, just walking up and down in the midst of nature in meditation. Now these are all nurseries of creativity. Sitting quiet, inward, watching a sunset, looking at a bird, looking at nature, these are all creative. But we don't have it, there's no time, competition is so much. So these authors dealing with human psychology, they say we have to resort to all these methods to encourage creativity in our children. Let them keep quiet for some time. And so that is the problem. Today we have got to encourage creativity, and meditation is the finest method of creativity. The center of all creativity is the Atman. When you go nearer to it, you get tremendous creativity. Scientific creativity, artistic creativity, all this will come the more spiritual we become. The greatest artists were deep spiritual people. Throughout history you can see the greatest art is spiritual. Others are all temporary in value. So be spiritual is a language. That means go to the center of creativity itself. The Lord God Himself is hidden within you. Go a little closer there. That comes through inwardness and meditation. So along with all the action that we do, this inwardness must also be cultivated. That's the idea. There is a book called Tao of Science, written by an MIT scientist, Chinese scientist. The first two sentences I found very interesting. He begins the book by saying, when there is nothing to do something, says America. When there is nothing to do nothing, says China. If there is nothing to do, what should I do? Why not keep quiet? Keep quiet also is a great value. That's a wonderful idea. Yeah. It is a remarkable discipline or science which developed very early in India. It's called pre-Vedic Indus Valley civilization. 3,000, 4,000 years ago, they have an image of a god sitting in meditation. We're surrounded by animals, tame and wild. That is the first picture you get of all culture, this idea of meditation. This becomes developed later on in the Upanishads and in Buddha, in later literature. What does this meditation mean? Our minds are scattered when we work, scattered on 1,000 things. When we go to bed and sleep, everything is gathered. This is the normal experience of man, a scattered state and a gathered state. But when you go to sleep and you return, you are the same person. If a fool goes to sleep, he returns only as a fool, nobody better. If a wise man goes, he returns as a wise man. But they discovered a new state in which you are conscious and you are not asleep. You are alert, you are awake, and yet you are scattered, you are gathered. That state is called meditation. When the entire sensory energy system becomes calm, when the mind and reason become calm, a wonderful state ensues. That state is called yoga. In that state, something deep within you becomes manifested. This noise of the world will not allow it to manifest. So we silence the mind, silence the senses. Then something great will happen. That's how they practiced meditation, developed it into a scientific technique. The deeper you go, the more extensive becomes your sympathy and understanding. Because the deeper you go, the more wider becomes the reality that you realize there. At the surface is only a very limited reality. Just like this genetically conditioned ego, I am the self. Highly limited we are. But there is an infinite self behind it. I don't know anything about it. It is that knowledge that comes to us when we go deeper and deeper into meditation. And when the sages realized the infinite Atman, they looked out, they found everybody is my own self, the same self in every being. That kind of wonderful humanistic and universal impulse came out of that meditation. So today we need this technique of meditation along with all our work that we do. The quantity is not essential. We may have 6 hours of work, but we need only 1 hour of meditation. That will set off against all the scattering that takes place there. So the second scattering after the gathering will be a different type of scattering, a controlled scattering. You are free. You are fully the master of the situation. That's the idea of work and meditation, impact on work. Work becomes more calm and steady, less exciting, less tense because of that meditation. Emerson has conveyed the message of the Gita, a particular verse, in a famous passage in his essays. He says, the men and women that we see in ourselves do not bear the impress of men and women. We are dragged through the world. We are harried, wrinkled, anxious. We all seem but the hacks of some invisible riders. How seldom do we behold tranquility. There is a famous passage there. Then he renders a verse of the 4th chapter of the Gita into a beautiful English sentence where he says, when we are in the crowd, we are lost in the crowd. When we are alone and peaceful. But the ideal man you see, who can work with his hands in the crowd, keeping his head in solitude. This is the capacity we have to develop. That is where inwardness comes in. Meditation comes in. A meditative person can be a very good worker without any fuss. Fussy work is inefficient work. From morning till evening you go on fussily working. That's not real work. Calm, silent, steady work, that is real work. When the first cars came, they were very fussy, noisy, and speed was only 20 miles. Today's cars are very powerful engines. They don't make any sound at all and go 100 miles speed. So human beings also can be like that old type of buggy car and modern type of jet engine. Absolutely calm and steady. That's called development of inner energy resources. Carry heavy burden with a smile. That's a wonderful artistic way of living.
What
See, it is a step-by-step process. We are conditioned by this genetic system just now. We are just caught up in it. And today's biology tells you human evolution is marked by your detaching yourself, your psyche, from this organic system and expanding it in love and concern for other people. See the wonderful language. Detach the psyche from this single organic system. Feel oneness with millions of organic systems. That is the beginning of spiritual development. They call it psychosocial evolution. So when we do so, we expand, we grow. We are not that limited tiny creature that we are just now. That's why spiritual development is a development into a largeness, a fullness. Something infinite is stirring in you that is stifled by the tyranny of the sensate and the quantitative. Get rid of that tyranny. Then you manifest your own infinite nature. Externally, you are finite. Internally, you are infinite. What a beautiful idea. The same physical frame you have, it will remain. But inside this, some infinite thing will be functioning. What was Ramakrishna? Physically, he was very ordinary. Culturally, he was limited by language, understanding, etc. But inwardly, he was infinite. This is language of Romarola, writing on Ramakrishna, in his life of Ramakrishna, a word to my Western readers. I am quoting the sentence. He said, Ramakrishna's external life was set in a very limited frame, far away from the currents and cross-currents of the contemporary world. But his inner life embraced the whole multiplicity of men and gods. He embraced in his inner life you and me and millions of us. What is the nature of that development? That is the spiritual development. Outwardly ordinary, inwardly extraordinary. And this is a profound message for modern civilization. When I was a schoolboy, our teacher one day said in the class, and what he said went deep into my mind, I don't know about other students. He said, boys, what we need is plain living and high thinking, he said. It went deep into my mind. It's a wonderful idea. Plain living and high thinking. What we have today is high living and no thinking. Not even plain thinking. Just the opposite, you know. What we are is what we are. Nothing more in us. Look at Sri Ramakrishna. So ordinary externally. Inwardly extraordinary. He touches you, he touches you, he touches you. Everyone he touches by his inward spiritual development. That is real greatness. And man alone can achieve it. Man alone can go beyond the limitations of this physical system. Assert it, that's called being spiritual. Expansion is the word, expansion. I don't think expansion can be understood as we now understand it. Physical expansion, even intellectual expansion, there's a limit. Physical expansion, a baby is 7 pounds at birth, then you become 200 pounds. More than that we don't want, isn't it? 400 pounds, we don't want anybody to expand physically. Similarly, mind also. You can't stuff the brain with all the information. You commit to memory the entire telephone book in your brain. What's the use? You can refer to that outside. Train the mind to scout for truth. That's all what is needed. But real expansion is spiritual. Your sympathy, your understanding expands. That's the meaning of the word Mahatma. You saw the Gandhi film. What is the greatness of Gandhi? He was Mahatma. Mahatma means whose Atma was infinite in dimension, not confined to this genetic system or the skin. So everybody must be a Mahatma in that sense. That's the meaning of the word Mahatma in Sanskrit. Maha Atma. Maha means big, expansive. So every child must become Mahatma. Then no violence can come. No evil can come. That's why the spiritual life today is nothing but evolving into the higher dimension where the psyche becomes expanded into infinite compassion. That's the way of human development. That's the best education you can give to children today. Ask them to expand beyond the genetic system. Feel for others. Use your strength to serve other people. Feel that you are one with them. You can banish all crime, especially juvenile crime, when this teaching goes to our children. This was the subject of a speech in Tokyo when I was given a lunch reception in the American club hotel. About 80 people were there. They wanted me to speak on care of children in modern society. There I made this particular observation. Put a child on the road of his infinite evolutionary march, psychosocial evolution, sympathy, understanding. That's all what is needed. We don't do it today. We confirm him in his own genetic limitation, the tyranny of the sensate. Therefore we create an unhealthy society. So Vedantic message is very clear. March on, march on. And man's march is not physical. You can go to Himalayas, you can go to even to the neighboring stars. That's not a real march. An inward march is there to your own center of being, which is the center of the whole universe. The more inward you become, the more capable you become of digging affections in other people. The ego can never do it. Ego is a billiard ball, says Bertrand Russell. It only collides. Deep, the self can enter into other people. So Ramakrishna could enter into you because he could enter into deep into himself and discover the infinite that is there. All great spiritual teachers belong to that category. And every one of us must be somewhere on that road of psychosocial evolution. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps even. That is the idea of spiritual growth.
We are very thankful to the Swami for his illuminating and inspiring talk to us this evening. To live with him is a great education. Our cultures, our Kansas City Society prepared a pamphlet about him, and they put a sentence that the Swami is the spiritual and cultural ambassador of India. And then they asked me, Swami, did you write all right? I said, yes, that is a very nice word. You put it without asking me, though the Swamis do not care for those types of words. But anyhow, we really appreciate that Swami could come to us, though he will not stay with us even 24 hours. But we put already invitation that our Golden Jubilee is coming in 1988. Swami will come to us and will stay a few days, and I expect that Swami will come next year also to us. As he is encircling the globe, St. Louis will be all right, one stop. We really enjoy his stay and his inspiration. So thank you everybody for coming and attending this lecture. Let me clear another announcement, that you see that Sea of Faith we shall see week from Tuesday, not tomorrow. Tomorrow our class will be cancelled because you have come today, and tomorrow again it would be too much. So week from Tuesday we shall see that movie which was produced by BBC, Sea of Faith. Thank you everybody. Good night.